Okay, so this vehicle has been part of our family for quite a few years, and back in 2014 we were taking in batteries in our garage here to use to develop the ReVolt, and one of those batteries that came in was completely dead, and we brought it back in 2014, brought it back to life, and it's been in this vehicle and operating that vehicle ever since. The battery is either, I can't remember whether it's a 2010 or 2011, we'll discover that when we open the hood. But every year since that time, we treat the battery for about 4 to 6 hours once a year with a ReVolt unit, and it just keeps going and going and going. Okay, so this vehicle has also been sitting in the driveway and on the street now for weeks at a time. We don't drive it much anymore, and the battery's been getting weaker each time I've started it, so this could be the last year that we have this battery because I've neglected it. It didn't get hit last year either. It's been just pretty much going on its own, unattended. The water level hasn't been checked or anything like that. So we're going to start it again and see how weak the start is. Sunshades, get out of the way here. Alright. Dome light is on, that's a good sign. Oh. That's, well, way dead at this point. Okay. So it definitely needs a service. And I'm going to go ahead and open the hood and see what we got under here. I was actually expecting it to start or crank at least. Oh my God. Cut. Alright, so I was a little bit surprised to see this level of corrosion on this. Like I said, we haven't been under the hood of this thing for too long. Or I mean, we haven't been here for long. Looks like it's a 2011 battery. There's a label down here. It says D1 on it. And that last digit is the year. I don't think it's a 2001. It could be. More than likely it's a 2011. And like I said, we got it in 2014. And come over here and get that. It says 3-year down there on it. So it was just a regular 36-month battery. Looks like a AAA label that's left on it. So AAA 36-month type 27 battery. And first thing we're going to do is pop the caps and see how much water it has in it. So I'm going to do that right now. And I recommend people have gloves on when they're handling these things because, well, it's just a good idea. It's pretty low in there, but it's not below the plates. And we'll see if the camera can actually give you an idea of what's in there. Yeah, they all have electrolyte visible at the top of them, so that's a good sign. It didn't get too low. Let's see if I can shine the light in here. Take that off for me. Here, the camera. Can you see in there in the hole? Oops, let's try that. Up a little higher. See if you can see down the level. It's not really visible. Might give you an idea of how much is in there. Like I said, it's right above the plate basically. So we're going to add a little more. Now this is very important. This is just a peroxide bottle. I use it because it's got a nice hole for pouring the water out of, but this must be distilled water. not purified water and not tap water. Distilled water has no minerals or anything in it. It's the cleanest kind, and it will service the battery the longest. You know, if it's an emergency, then basically any water you could put in it's going to help, but it's probably not going to keep the battery alive very long. Okay. And it's important to do this while the battery's at a discharge stage and not a charge stage, because when it takes on charge, it's going to put the sulfation back into the electrolyte and turn it into sulfuric acid. If it's already fully charged up, there's not going to be much of that happening, and you're just going to be diluting the electrolyte. Okay, so we're going to put the caps back on and be done with that. You do have to worry about some of this stuff on the top getting in. It will contaminate it again and shorten the life, but you don't have to be real anal about it. You don't want pebbles and stuff like that falling in there. All right, but this we've got to deal with. Normally I expect this. It's from the sulfide gas coming out and causing that corrosion on there, but this was quite a bit more than I was anticipating. You see the paint that's on there, and normally what we do is we'll clean it and then put it all together, and then after that is when we apply the correcting or the protectant to it, whether it's paint or some coating. You never want that protectant to get between the inside of the connector here and the top post of the battery terminal. Basically, you don't want anything between that connection, because that'll just degrade its performance rather than enhance it. So the protectant always goes on outside of everything that's been assembled. Okay. This is about 6 tablespoons of baking soda and just regular tap water in about 32 ounces. And I put it in a spray bottle because it's easier to apply that way. Get it to come out here. There we go. And this will neutralize the sulfate that's on there. Fail on that idea. It's got some baking soda, actually undissolved baking soda up in the pump probably. You're going to get a pretty strong bubbling action here, because that is acidic and this is basic, and so it's neutralizing it, canceling it out, reacting with it. This is just to get it kind of cleaned up so that I can get in there with a wrench, and it's easier to clean it all at this point than separately. Also, you want to pay attention to what's happening on the wire back here, because usually some of that corrosion gets there and starts corroding the wire, and that degrades the performance of the wire at that point and the connection. And all of that adds up to, when the starter gets the power, there's less there for it, and so it can sometimes appear like the battery's weak just because you have bad connections here from corrosion or just not being attached properly. All right, we probably have some over here too. Yep. When you get most of the big bubbling to stop, then it's time to rinse it off and take it apart and clean it some more. Again, this is pretty extensive on here. As I said, we hadn't serviced it. Try to service it every year, but last year didn't really get to it. All right, it's pretty reduced at this point, and you can see the lead's exposed now where it's been. Move that over here. Now you just want to rinse it, and tap water is fine for that. be careful where you're pouring the water relative to what it's going in the vehicle. And there's so much variation in that, I can't see anything more than just that general statement. Safety says we want to take the negative off first. And that's, of course, a different size. Always take the negative off first. Why? Because of what I'm showing you exactly here. The negative is tied to the body of the vehicle, and if the negative is attached, then that means the body of the vehicle is also negative. And if you attempt to put a wrench across the plus to take it off and you're not paying attention and you get between the plus and the body, you will create a short circuit and you will know it. Well, if your battery's alive at all, you'll know it. So like I said, safety is negative lead is first off and last on. Okay, that's nice and muddy. All right, now the negative lead is off. So we can safely remove the positive lead. Wrenches. Wrong direction there. Cheap ratchets. There we go. There. All right. The proper way to loosen a clamp that's stuck, one of these top posts, is not to sit there and pry it and everything and try to lift it off. If it will swing off loosely, then that's great. You just swing it side to side and lift it off. But that's locked on there pretty good. Again, you can really damage the battery ultimately itself if you're trying to wrangle this thing off of there. What you want to do is you want to spread these. And if you can get in there, you can do it this way. But if you want to use a driving force to do it, then you can tap it at a tangent there to the circumference of the post. And if anything, it will try to spin it and spread the clamp at the same time. So there we go. Okay. All right. So now we're ready to go. Now, if this battery had been clean, we wouldn't have to go through all of this. The process would be that we just take the negative lead off, we hook the ReVolt up, we run the boost cycle, and that's it. But again, because we skipped this last year, and I don't recall ever actually checking the electrolyte after the first time that we brought it back from the dead. So that just needed to be done. But because we let it go so long, we're having to do the full service of cleaning the terminals and that kind of thing.